Hello and welcome to the Gaggle War Challenge, and if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Samuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. So, Peter, one aspect of uh, this war that has now been unleashed between Israel and Iran, unleashed in large part by Donald Trump's staggering, I don't know, incompetence, recklessness, frivolity,
Indifference.
indifference. It's stunning. I mean, we're still trying to get our head around um, what actually happened and why. Um, but one aspect of it is that he has now got himself into a bad, very bad crisis for his presidency and for the United States on an issue that really wasn't even very important for him. He never talked about Iran during the election. They talked about a lot of things, whether it's tariffs, immigration, Ukraine. He talked a lot about Ukraine, how he was going to deal with the Ukraine, and so on. He never talked about Iran, other
What
than
he did, he went to when Kamala Harris was basically made persona non grata in Michigan. He went there and courted the Arab vote, which
yes,
at the time I was bold. I mean, that was I don't know who said just go and face it, and he said, I'm paraphrasing everyone, no more of these silly forever wars. We want peace. We want peace, and people cheered
yes,
him.
exactly, exactly, and that's really the point. How did he get to be the Republican Party nominee for the 2016 election? He did it by saying we're abandoning all of that Bush, Cheney, McCain foreign policy. No more stupid wars, particularly no more stupid wars in the Middle East. You remember they talked about the $8 trillion that we've wasted on these wars in the Middle East. $8 trillion. No one ever knew how he came up with that number, but it sounded good. 8 trillion that we've wasted on the wars in the Middle East.
But
That
it was trillions, everyone. I think
yeah,
that Boston study group, it was like the Iraq, Afghanistan combined, it was
right,
3 point something trillion dollars.
right. It's a lot of money. It was a lot of money, and so he did it. And at the time, a lot of people said, "Oh, you can't do that. You're attacking the base of the Republican Party. They're very patriotic. They're all former, servicemen, veterans. You can't. These are families of vets. This is a disastrous course for Trump. It turned out to be absolutely perfect course for him, and it sealed the deal. He knocked Jeb Bush out of the running. He made fun of John McCain. He paid no price. Everyone was happy about that. And that was it.
And he bucked the trend. An anti-war candidate won.
The anti-war candidate. He bucked the trend. He ran as the peace candidate against Hillary Clinton. And he was repeatedly attacked, by during his presidency by the deep state. Oh well, he's insufficiently eager to get America into wars. He's just not enthusiastic enough about wars.
But when the missiles went out, hit Syria, this is the first time Trump is
Exactly.
presidential.
He was that's right. That was but it was only at those moments that he enjoyed any kind of praise. But otherwise, they were always suspicious that he's
And we
not
had
really on board.
Russiagate.
The Russiagate, but when he talked about, what, I'm going to pull American forces out of Syria. Oh my God! How can anyone think of anything so insane as pulling American forces out of Syria? So this has been Trump all of this time, um, and now he's going completely against it. He said, "I'm not going." His calling card during his first term was, "Yeah, I didn't. I'm the first president since I don't know when who didn't get America into a new war." He's repeated that. I didn't get anyone. I'm the peace candidate. I'm the peace president. I don't
And I
get
can
America
make
into
peace.
wars.
I can make peace deals.
I can make peace deals. And now he has done the opposite. Not only a war that he's got America into, it's a war in the Middle East, and it's going to be quite
And
difficult
it's against the country, they can fight back.
against a country that can fight back. And now, you know, I think very hearteningly, some of the people who had supported him have come out very strongly against him. One of whom is, I think, the person we admire, this Tucker Carlson. And so Tucker Carlson, really just about a week or so ago, he was one of the first really to spot those that the things were going dangerous. He obviously had heard something that we're moving close towards supporting Israel in this attack. So this was about a week or so ago. Tucker Carlson sent out this tweet. Mark Levin was at the White House today, lobbying for war with Iran. To be clear, Levin has no plans to fight in this or any other war. None of these people ever do. He's demanding that American troops do it. We need to stop Iran from building nuclear weapons, he and like-minded ideologues in Washington are now arguing. They're just weeks away.
Again, yeah.
If this sounds familiar, it's because the same people have been making the same claims since at least the 1990s. It's a lie. In fact, there is zero credible intelligence that suggests Iran is anywhere near building a bomb or has plans to. None. Anyone who claims otherwise is ignorant or dishonest. If the US government knew Iran was weeks from possessing a nuclear weapon, we'd be at war already.
Well, we miss those monologues.
I agree. I agree. I really do miss them. And then he goes, Iran knows this, which is why they aren't building one. Iran also knows it's unwise to give up its weapons program entirely. Muammar Gaddafi tried that and wound up sodomized with a bayonet. As soon as Gaddafi disarmed, NATO killed him. Iran's leaders saw that happen. They learned the obvious lesson. So why is Mark Levin once again hyperventilating about weapons of mass destruction? To distract you from the real goal, which is regime change. Young Americans heading back to the Middle East to topple yet another government. Virtually no one will say this out loud. America's record of overthrowing foreign leaders is so embarrassingly counterproductive that regime change has become a synonym for disaster. Officially, no one supports it, so instead of telling the truth about their motives, they manufacture hysteria. A country like Iran can never have the bomb. They'll nuke Los Angeles. We have to act now. Of course, Levin is Israel first. I mean, all these people, Levin, yeah. Dershowitz, I mean, they're Israel. They're shills for Israel. I mean, yeah. All this thing about how they care so much about America and everything else, that's all a lie. They don't really mean this, and you can tell they don't buy what they omit. At least two of Iran's neighbors, both Islamic nations, already have nuclear weapons. The fact should scare the hell out of Mark Levin, yet for some reason he never mentions it. How come? Because it's not the weapons he hates, it's the ideology of the Iranian government, which is why he's lobbying to overthrow it.
And it resists Israel's hegemony in the region. It's a naysayer to Israel.
Right. Exactly. It goes without saying.
And it has the capacity to say no.
That's right. It goes without saying that there are very few Trump voters who'd support regime change war in Iran. Donald Trump has argued loudly against reckless lunacy like this. Trump ran for president as a peace candidate. That's what made him different from conventional Republicans. It's why he won. A war with Iran would amount to a profound betrayal of his supporters. It would end his presidency. That may explain why so many of Trump's enemies are advocating for it. And then there's the question of the war itself. Iran may not have nukes, but it has a fearsome arsenal of ballistic missiles, many of which are aimed at US military installations in the Gulf, as well as at our allies in the critical energy infrastructure. The first weeks of a war with Iran could easily kill thousands of Americans. It could also collapse our economy, surging oil prices, trigger unmanageable inflation, and consider the effects of $30 gasoline. But the second week of the war could be even worse. Iran isn't Iraq or Libya or even North Korea. While it's often described as a rogue state, Iran has powerful allies. It's now part of a global bloc called BRICS, which represents the world's landmass, the majority of the world's landmass, population, economy. Iran has extensive military ties with Russia. It sells the overwhelming majority of its oil exports to China. Iran isn't alone. An attack on Iran could very easily become a world war. We'd lose. None of these are far-fetched predictions. Most of them comport with the Pentagon's own estimate. Many Americans would die during a war with Iran. People like Mark Levin don't seem to care about this. No, they don't. It's not relevant to them. Instead, they insist that Iran give up all uranium enrichment regardless of its purpose. They know perfectly well that Iran would never accept that demand. They'll fight first, and of course, that's the whole point of pushing for it, to box the Trump administration into a regime change war in Iran. And of course, that's exactly what they would be. I mean, if Iran gave up uranium enrichment, they would be invaded the very next day. I mean, it's like there's no question. Levin wants to march into Tehran.
Yeah.
The one thing that people
the point is, everyone, this has nothing to do with nuclear enrichment. Okay, this is a regime change. Okay,
right.
And this is at the behest of Israel. Iran is not a threat to the United States.
Of course not. The one thing that people like Mark Levin don't want is a peaceful solution to the problem of Iran. Despite the obvious benefits to the United States, they denounce anyone who advocates for a deal as a traitor and a bigot. They tell us with a straight face that Long Island native Steve Witkoff is a secret tool of Islamic monarchies. Long Island native.
Oh, I missed the monologues so much.
Secret tool of Islamic monarchies. They'll say or do whatever it takes. They have no limits. These are scary people. Pray that Donald Trump ignores them. Yeah, we can. And then now this was the editorial that he wrote this week, and this was just after the attack. And so here's the headline: "Drop them." So he says, "From this day forward, it's going to be only America first, America first." That's a direct quote from Donald Trump's first inaugural address. And it's the same sentiment that thrust him back into the White House in January. Now the world will find out if he really means it. Now that Benjamin Netanyahu and his war-hungry government have executed their long-awaited assault on Iran, the president faces a legacy-altering decision to support or not to support.
But it's moot.
You're right.
I'm sorry.
Right, yeah. I mean,
you lose by supporting, you lose by not supporting, you lose. It's moot.
Yeah. We'd like to take this opportunity to state our position as clearly as possible. The United States should not at any level participate in a war with Iran. No funding, no American weapons, no troops on the ground. Regardless of what our special ally says, a fight with the Iranians has nothing to offer the United States. It's not in our national interest. I think that obviously it's true. And above all, it shouldn't be doing any protecting of Israel. No interception of Iranian missiles. You know, Israel launched this. Israel, let Israel live with the consequences. No, they have to live with those missiles. The United States shouldn't be at all intercepting anything.
I agree.
If Israel wants to wage,
we're intercepting Iranian missiles, but we're not involved.
We're not.
We've heard. We're not involved. We're not involved.
We're not involved. If Israel wants to wage this war, it has every right to do so. It's a sovereign country, and it can do so as it pleases, but not with America's backing. Well, they've already got all these arms. I mean, if it wages anything, then basically you have to go to the next step, which is cut them off from all weaponry. I mean, if you don't want, basically, if you don't want any involvement, then you have to cut them off, because they're using missiles provided by the United States. But not with America's backing. At an absolute minimum, the United States continuing to insert itself in this conflict will further whip up the radical Islamic world's hatred of the West and fuel the next generation of terrorism. The worst case, thousands of immediate American deaths in the name of a foreign agenda that has nothing to do with our country. It goes without saying that neither of those possibilities would be beneficial for the United States. But there's another option: drop Israel. Let them fight their own wars. You got.
Everybody just remember, Tucker Carlson is the patron saint of MAGA.
He is. He is. He is. Got fired for it, but he's the patron saint.
Well, there's some people that I follow, and they went to the Trump rallies during the campaign, and he has very close contacts with the MAGA movement, and they've just said that their interest in Israel is almost zero. Now, of course, you're going to have the Christian Zionists, okay, and they always make themselves heard and be felt, but run-of-the-mill average, Trump supporters, this is not an issue for them. They're not motivated by this issue.
Not at all. That's Marjorie Taylor Greene says exactly the same thing. We're not fighting Israel's wars. We're just not, there's no interest in that whatsoever. It has nothing to do with us. It's Israel's wars. It's nothing to do with us. But it's funny that even it's hard to think of anyone in Congress, just a person other than Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie is about the only one who would say, yes, drop Israel. Even Rand Paul wouldn't say that. Even he wouldn't go that far. It's just Thomas Massie is the only one who says, yeah, drop Israel. Israel does nothing for us. No matter how many bogus anti-Semitism allegations neocon ghouls like Mark Levin hurl at Americans, neocon ghouls hurl at Americans who advocate for that path, opposing destroying the United States in the name of the Netanyahu government, has nothing to do with Israel. It's about America. We reject the idea of involving the U.S. in an Israel war for the same reason that we would stand against doing the same thing on behalf of Eritrea, Suriname, Cambodia, or any other random country you could close your eyes and point at a map. It's not America's fight. Engaging in it would be a middle finger in the faces of the millions of voters who cast their ballot in the hope of creating a government that would finally put the United States first. What happens next will define the Trump presidency.
We said that way before Tucker did.
That's right. But I like that. Engaging in it would be a middle finger in the faces of the millions of voters who cast their ballots or in the hopes of creating a government. That's it. But it's on Trump. This is Trump's. I mean, this is, there was no need for this. This is not, it's not even his issue. And he has gone himself in as we discussed in that earlier video, he just allowed Netanyahu to take everything over. Oh, this is day 61. All right, well, we're not going to stand in your way. You're the president of the United States and you're allowing, the prime minister of a small country to run this country's foreign policy.
And what do you think is happening right now? He's got one side in one ear and the other side in the other ear. Donald Trump, do you have any idea what you're doing? Okay. Are you going to listen to Mark Levine?
Yes.
You want another stupid war?
Right.
That is going to will be the copyright of your presidency.
It will be. It will be. Exactly.
And there are interesting estimates. $30 a gallon?
Right.
Come on.
Right.
Come on. I mean, even if it's $8 a gallon, even if it's 5 gallons, $5 a gallon.
Right.
We can be really modest. That's going to wreck your presidency.
It's going to wreck your presidency.
Because these people, that's like 20, 30, 40, 50% of their monthly budget.
Exactly. Exactly. You remember the second oil shock which came after the
I
Iranian
remember it.
revolution. Boom, that ended the Carter presidency. Boom, that was it. I mean, he was gone.
Yeah.
And this will be fast. This will be very fast, and particularly as he will have brought this on himself. This, this spike in oil prices, it didn't have to happen. And his loyalists, they're going to abandon him. Hey, we thought we were getting one thing, we're not getting that, so boom.
Sorry, Mr. President, I can't attend your next rally because I can't afford the gas.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, that's what people care about. I mean, yeah, can they afford the gas in the United States, where people live from their cars and their trucks? That's the most important thing. Um, and then this is Tucker Carlson, and then he sent this out again on that same day. He says the real divide isn't between people who support Israel and people who support Iran or the Palestinians. The real divide is between those who casually encourage violence and those who seek to prevent it, between warmongers and peacemakers. Who are the warmongers? They would include anyone who's calling Donald Trump today to demand airstrikes and other direct U.S. military involvement in a war with Iran. On that list, Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, Rupert Murdoch, Ike Perlmutter, and Miriam Adelson. I'm not sure who Ike Perlmutter is.
Not sure who that is
Yeah.
either. No.
And Miriam Adelson. Okay. At some point, they will all have to answer for this, but you should know their names now. Yeah, that's good. Sean Hannity, he always been the worst. Hannity has always been poison, as has Murdoch. Murdoch has throughout his career been poison. And then we have Charlie Kirk, who's another figure within MAGA. By all appearances, Israel's initial wave of attacks on Iran has been remarkably successful. They've killed off Iran's general staff. They appear to have caught Iran totally unprepared and have been able to operate with total impunity over the skies of Iran. That's great. But right now is the easy part. Israel is attacking without any casualties, and there has been zero military, diplomatic, or financial blowback so far. If it stays that way, awesome, but it almost certainly won't. Notice he's sort of, cagey and
Yeah,
evasive.
you can see him covering all his bets. He's at the
Exactly. He doesn't have
roulette wheel. He's
anything.
got a
Yeah.
lot of red and he's got a lot of black.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah. Nothing really forthright here. Oh, that's great. Yeah. In the hours and days to come, there will be hawks who urge America to increase its involvement in this conflict. They will call for us to finish off the mullahs or to help Israel with mopping up. They will claim, tell me if you've heard this before, that if we topple the Iranian regime, we will be welcomed as liberators. We should be deeply skeptical of these arguments. Actually, these arguments you hear this all the time about the liberators, how the Iranians are chafing for new
It's a
leadership.
captive nation.
It's captive, exactly. They're chomping at the bit. America's intervention in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Libya were all easy at the start. It was in the months and years afterwards that they became costly, wasteful quagmires. None of them were worth it. Collectively, they were hugely costly in terms of debt, reputation, national unity, and American lives. Iran can strike at American military bases in the Gulf more easily than they can strike at Israel. Dragging America into this war might be irrational and suicidal, but wars have a habit of making their participants irrational and suicidal. Just look at the Ukraine war. In any drawn-out war with Iran, America loses even if we win. I'm not sure what win is. Our focus must not be on seeking regime change or any further escalation of America's involvement. The last thing America needs right now is a new war. Our number one desire must be peace as quickly as possible. We need humility, prudence, and prayer in the days to come. This situation is extremely fluid, and no one knows with certainty how this will end. Arrogance, cockiness, and boastful celebration is the worst posture we can have. Israel believed their existence was at stake, and they acted accordingly and impressively. This is Israel's fight to finish as they see fit, not America's. Now, this is, kind of pretty mealy mouthed. However, he's an influential figure. Um, very, very powerful young guy, but there's a big following. He organizes these big events, and therefore, what he says that's significant. I mean, there's particularly young people, the young
Well,
the
and
followers follow him.
just this duo
Yeah,
with Tucker Carlson, and then don't even throw in Steve Bannon into the mix,
exactly.
okay?
Yeah,
Okay, and then Marjorie Taylor Greene.
right.
It's so easy to underestimate her, but she is proven to be a power unto herself.
She's a very formidable person, very smart. You may not like her, I mean, but she's a very smart person, and effective. She's actually a very effective politician on the Hill. Yeah, put them all together, and if you've got a disastrous war, then you're in a lot of trouble
Yeah,
because
trouble in MAGA world, everyone.
very much so. And keep in mind, there are midterms next November. If Trump loses those, if the economy tanks, then he is going to lose those. He's going to be impeached.
He'll be impeached. He'll be impeached.
He will be impeached. They've already.
And everyone, if I don't want to do a video on it because for me it's a waste of time, but there's no king demonstrations. A joke, okay. But what Trump is setting up is the Democratic Party has no reason to have a forensic review of itself. They don't have to.
Right.
What went wrong?
Yep.
Because Trump is doing everything for them, and they will not have to change their agenda.
That's right.
Okay. He's doing them an enormous favor.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, we're hours into this, but George, I just it breaks my heart thinking American soldiers are going to start coming home in bags.
Right.
For what?
Right.
What?
For what? Exactly. And it breaks my heart to think that in the coming hours, Mark Levin, Sean Hannity, and the rest of those creeps will be baying for blood and demanding that America throw its weight behind our greatest ally and friend in all the world.
Oh God! Just like these people turn everyone's brain into the contents of a blender.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly. I have to say, on a personal level, I can't. I find the most repugnant thing in the world, the most repugnant sound in the world is the sound of a spokesman on behalf of the Israeli government. I mean, just listening to that accent and to that guttural way of speaking and that self-righteousness and the arrogance and the total contempt for everyone, the contempt for all human lives except Israelis. It's just really, I mean, I don't know, there's just nothing quite like it, quite anything as disgusting as that.
Yeah,
And they're on television all the time.
And you are denigrated in the public sphere for pushing back against it.
Yeah.
You can't, on immigration, you can have a reasonable, sometimes you get nasty conversation, but there is a conversation. On this, no conversation is allowed.
No.
No conversation. Only on this one issue.
Exactly.
It's not allowed.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. And you're an anti-Semite.
That's right.
I mean, George and I have been around the block a lot, many, many times. This whole smear campaign, it's just their default position.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And Tucker Carlson, I must admit, watching the evolution of this man is remarkable.
Yep. That's right.
He was a Gulf War booster.
He was. He was. He was a Gulf War booster. And essentially, I mean, remember when he was a young kind of commentator on CNN? Yeah, that's right. He was a very uninteresting person,
He was annoying.
annoying,
He
exactly.
was an annoying little prat.
That's right.
That's what I remember.
That's right. That's right. And I remember when he had that confrontation with
John Stewart.
Jon Stewart, and I was on Jon Stewart's side.
Me too.
Yeah. But you look back years later, and you sort of realize, it's completely juxtaposed. That like Jon Stewart, I think, is a very inconsequential figure, whereas Tucker Carlson, I think, has become a very consequential figure. I think he's an important voice. He's an important voice in the country. So it's been an amazing transformation. Um,
What in the world is going on in Trump's mind right now? You have this is nothing less than an open revolt. This is an open revolt from
right,
people that have, you know, these people have gravitas,
right,
George. This
yeah,
this isn't some random guy.
right,
People, this is serious stakes right now. We don't even know how this whole tariff thing is going to play out.
right.
We don't know yet. It's still because actions have been taken and then reactions and all that. So it could be a muddle. Okay, the jury is out for me, but the decisions he makes over the next couple of days,
Yeah.
you know, people are going to write books about
Yes.
this, and
Yeah.
it's going to be hotly debated. And we did a previous interview. Was it the Wall Street Journal and Washington Post writing the first draft?
Yes. There was the
Okay.
Wall Street Journal.
Wall Street Journal is writing the first draft. The first draft looks pretty bad.
It looks, whichever way you look at it, I mean, it looks very bad for Trump. Um, that whole the Israeli line, which they're putting, oh, it was all a ruse. We just led them. We're very clever. We led them on to believing that we were serious about negotiation, but all along we were going to hit them hard. Well, either that, I don't believe
Well,
that.
I mean, but it makes the Israelis look good, but
It
it
makes
makes
yeah,
Donald Trump look really bad.
it look really bad. Looks terrible. But the alternative, which I think is the closer to the truth, which is that Trump has just been all over the place, doesn't seem to have any clear idea of what he wants, which is somewhat surprising. You've had all these years to think about your return to power, and rectify whatever mistakes you made during your first term, and you're just all over the place. And now you allow the prime minister of a little country, population 9 million, you're allowing them to just run your foreign policy. Oh, well, you said the sort of the 60-day. You set the 60-day deadline. Well, today's day 61. I need to enforce your deadline. Oh, all right. Well, no,
I
no,
won't
no.
stand in your way. I won't stand in your way. How many times are we going to invoke that phrase moving forward? I won't stand in your way.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
Donald Trump, what if you'd stood in his way? What was the downside for you?
none.
What would have been the downside if you
Exactly.
said, I'm going to stand in your way?
What
What's
would have
the
been the job?
downside?
Yeah.
None.
None. So, Mark Levin is going to criticize you. Mark Levin has got nowhere to go. I mean, Mark Levin, his selling point is that he has access to the president. He can't start attacking you because then he doesn't get access to the president anymore. So, what, you're afraid of Mark Levin? You're afraid of Sean Hannity? You're the president. It's
And
just,
what about your voters? What
yeah,
about your base? Okay. You know, I remember Roger Waters. It was during I guess Trump had been just been inaugurated, and he was in like Sweden or something like that, and he shocked. Like this is Scandinavia. I understand why. I'm paraphrasing. I understand why Donald Trump was elected because I understand the people that voted for him,
right,
and they want their country back.
yeah,
They want jobs. They want dignity.
right,
They want to have something in the bank. They want to
right,
have, they want to go. Americans are worked to the bone. They get almost no vacation
right,
time. And then when they do have vacation, they do home renovation. Okay.
right, right,
And so, and that base has only got more enraged.
yeah.
Okay. And now you want to go on this foreign adventure that
Right.
has no upside. I see no
No,
upside in any of it.
no.
It's all going to, how it's going to end badly. How badly, I don't know. But I'm absolutely convinced there's no upside for Donald Trump, for the American people, and I would even say the Western world, because no one has put a leash on
Sure.
this very, very aggressive regime in Israel.
Right, right. That's right. And one has to say, and I think Tucker Carlson suggested this, that, the people who are kind of egging you on, they may not have your best interests at heart. And I'm thinking in particular about the Europeans who seem to be really gung-ho with Israel, like Macron and the Germans and everything. Now, why are they suddenly so, you know, whipped up into this anti-Iranian fervor? Could it be that they think this is going to be the quagmire that's going to sink the Trump presidency? I don't know, but
Well, I mean,
it's
George,
very strange why they're so embracing Israel's cause now.
it's one of these things. I mean, over the last 72 hours have been a lifetime of political thinking, if you know what I mean. The next election is what everyone is preparing for. But, and the Europeans, it seems to me from their rhetoric, they just want to wait this guy out. Okay?
That's right.
They think that this is all an aberration. Okay? And so you're right. So they're going to cheer this on. They want Trump to fail
Yeah,
big time,
that's
big
right.
league.
That's right. That's right. They want him to fail, and a hopeless war. That's the quickest way to fail, right? For any political leader, get yourself into a hopeless war, and you're going to fail quickly. And in this case, particularly with him, given that he sold himself as the peace candidate, the one who's finally abandoned the whole Bush, McCain, Cheney legacy of the Republican Party to embrace this, to do actually something even they weren't willing to do.
Even they wouldn't do it.
That's right. George W. Bush, he had a chance to do it and he said no. They wouldn't do it, and you're going to go ahead and do this. It's I mean, if you want Trump to fail, then you absolutely would encourage him. Yeah, keep going. Keep going, Mr. Trump. You got to take a firm line.
How in the world can people like Tucker Carlson support Trump and the Republicans, right, hit Trump's leadership in the next midterm? I can't see how we can do that. I
No,
can see him campaigning against him.
right.
This, I don't know. This is like all a bad dream. I mean, this was so. Why?
That's right.
Why?
Inexplicable. There we were. Things humming along. Moving. Everything's just smoothly. We're getting a deal done. It'll be. Yes, JCPOA 2.0. And they're going to throw in some, to make it seem it's tougher. Oh yeah, it's tougher. The sunset clause is going to be longer than in the previous one. Oh, there'll be the IAEA will be more directly involved in oversight. So this is really much, much tougher than what Obama negotiated. But the Iranians were ready for this. They were ready to agree to this, and then you sabotaged it. I mean, you brought this up, and I think it's analogous to his sabotaging his own Gaza ceasefire deal. I mean, you negotiated with it, and then you destroyed it. What? How does one explain that?
Well, look at Ukraine. Okay. The Istanbul process was reignited. There was some glimmer of hope,
Right,
very slight, but it was
right,
there.
right.
Did he put his weight behind it?
He put his weight behind it.
Did he invest any capital in it? No.
No,
No.
no, yeah.
I mean, what was his phrase? Winning, are you tired of winning? Well, are you tired of losing? I mean,
Yeah.
big.
That's three big issues that he's now bungled. Um, that's not a good record. Time is going to go by very quickly in your presidency. You're already, halfway into your first year. You just got this one term. And then, the next cycle already begins January, was it 20, I think what 2027, January 2027. The next cycle begins, all the candidates start lining up and preparing for the 2028 election. So you've got a very small window. And then if you've bungled it, recovering is going to be very, very
Well,
difficult.
and also, I mean, George and I haven't put a lot of focus on this, but the big beautiful bill looks very problematic
That
right
looks
now.
problematic as well.
So even on his prized domestic agenda, um, but wars, particularly, Americans have been insulated so much from their own wars. Okay, but gasoline
You're
prices,
right.
okay,
Right.
inflation.
You're right.
It's hard to insulate. Okay,
Right.
the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. That's not enough.
Right.
That you're looking at a 90-day thing, or I
Right.
don't know the exact numbers.
Right.
That this is we even haven't talked about what if the Iranians block the Straits of Hormuz.
Well, that's possible.
I
I
mean,
mean,
their refineries are being attacked.
our refineries are being attacked. I think that the moment they get a sense that it's the Americans are involved in this and the Americans are attacking them, they will attack all the American bases in the region. I mean, that's just why wouldn't they? We're under attack by the United States, and they would.
And that's what I'm glad you mentioned it because I don't think Iran will hit any American base or kill any American soldier up and until
Yep.
there is a direct and obvious, transparent American involvement against
Yes.
them. Then it's fair game.
That is
That's
again. Exactly. I think at this stage they're limiting themselves to Israel. But if it's now clear that it's Americans, and particularly if they really do this bunker buster bombs, all this talk about oh, we've got to move the bunker buster bombs, to hit Fordo, then absolutely you attack the Americans. And that's really going to be not just in terms of the casualties, and therefore America then has to respond. I mean, then you have to escalate because you can't just allow Iran to kill a lot of Americans, but all the rest, the economic consequences, in terms of oil prices. I mean, it's just it's going to be an absolute disaster. Just a complete.
I can't get over this. I won't stand in your
I'm
way.
not standing in your way.
It just it cascades now.
Yeah.
And then it's you can't even game it. It's
Imagine you're president, and then the prime minister of Israel comes to you and says, "Well, I'm going to go and enforce your deadline." And wouldn't you say, just a minute, it's my deadline. I get to enforce it or not enforce it. I mean, that's my call. I said, well, I won't stand in your way. Yeah, just go ahead. Fine. I'm off to the Kennedy Center. I've got more important things to do. I got to watch, Les Miserables. It's just mind-boggling. What's going on in his mind?
well, I mean, I'm not going to give any credence to it. I mean, because we don't have strong evidence, but there are people that are talking about mental acuity.
They could be. They could well be.
No, again, I just can't help but have the feeling he just likes being president.
Yeah.
I don't think he takes seriously the responsibilities. I mean, look, the parade,
Yeah.
and I saw, 1 minute of it or something like that. Okay. I don't know, maybe my father would have been proud of that, being a veteran of the Second World War. But the squeaky wheels and all of that, and I don't like militarism at all. It just never really interests me. And if he was trying to impress veterans and their families, they vote against war, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
They voted against war candidates in 2016. That's what got you elected.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're trying to impress that constituency, then you misread them.
It's very interesting what you said about he enjoys being president, but doesn't take the responsibilities seriously, and that is very true. I mean, whatever else you say about other presidents, they age in office. I mean, there's a reason why you age in office. It's a very stressful job. Not just that you have to be up a lot, but the pressure. It's ultimately you're the one who's making the most fundamental decisions. I mean, and like someone like Nixon. Nixon aged a great deal in office, but he was under a lot of constantly under stress. I mean, that's why, he liked to drink. I mean, the drinking was part of his just to relieve the pressure that you're constantly under. I just don't feel Trump, has any of that feeling of this of the pressure and the responsibilities of that office. That hey, a lot of people's lives depend on this. There are people going out, you know, making the case for you, and then you're going to tweet something out, and then completely undercutting the very people who have just been advocating your behalf. That's like on the immigration thing. You got Stephen Miller who's coming out, putting himself on the line day after day, making this case about illegals and deportations, and then you send out some ridiculous truth about, hey, well, I don't want to make farmers' lives difficult. They need their their illegal labor, so we'll have a carve out for farmers. Oh, and the people in the hotel and entertainment industries, they'll get a carve out as well.
And maybe we'll throw in dreamers.
The dream is, I mean, do you have an idea what the hell you're saying when you do this? You're completely undercutting your case, and you're undercutting all the people who have been gone out and to argue and advocate on your behalf.
This is just one of those inflection moments. I mean, again, with the first video we did, we're calling what's going on here the fallacy of common sense,
Right.
because all har hardly debatable.
Right.
We could go either way on some of them, but I mean,
Right.
the case against this was so
Yes.
patently obvious. How did you end up on the other side of this argument?
That's right.
How?
Yeah.
Like you said, we were going through some of your slides, but the question of why, everything's there. Who, what, where,
Right.
when, but there's
Right.
no why.
There's no
Why?
why. That's right. Yeah, but you read this, this Wall Street Journal's account. Here again, then he had that call, and then Trump said, "Well, I want stand in the way." Why? Why did it suddenly make that decision? Well, after all this time, after all these negotiations, and after a good deal was ready to be signed because of Israel. Aren't you supposed to be America first? Netanyahu doesn't like it. Well, what do you care what Netanyahu likes or doesn't like? I mean, we've been going through all these stories saying you're getting annoyed with Netanyahu. And
Yeah,
then,
but that remains to be seen if that
well,
was
that remains that we're going to have to
obviously.
look into that exactly. How much of that was show? How much of it was real? I mean,
And if it wasn't real, then his real intentions were camouflaged and a betrayal of his public
but
persona.
exactly, exactly, because
He doesn't win either way.
no, it doesn't.
He's deceptive, or he's a fool,
That's right.
or
Yes, whichever exactly. He's either deceptive or is a fool, and it doesn't look deceptive because one of his selling points is he's very genuine. He says what's on his mind. So if the alternative is true, that all along he's been cunning and lying and deceiving everyone, well, that doesn't look good. I mean, then hey, people don't like being taken for a ride. Somebody who pretending to be genuine, and then it turns out that he's just been making a right fools out of us, or he's an idiot. And so, he's allows himself to be completely taken for a ride by Netanyahu, more so than even George W. Bush. I mean, he's now
I
he's
mean,
that
can you imagine Mike Waltz right now? Has like a quadruple scotch, and he said, "Then I got fired."
exactly. I got fired.
His name hasn't been proposed to the Senate yet. He had a safe seat. He was in the leadership. I mean, the sky was the limit for this guy, and now he's probably in a lazy boy, and I got fired.
Right. That's right. Exactly. He was in that, and then now he's got a real crummy job. I mean, it's just a permanent U.S. ambassador to the
Oh,
U.
I don't even think he's good. I don't. I think that's yesterday's snow. I don't think he's. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah,
They don't need anybody there. They can get some flunky. We need you to sit in that chair and raise your hand. Okay, I can do that.
that's all they do. And then you deliver a speech, but the speech is drafted by the State Department. You don't draft these speeches. If it's the State Department, they draft a speech for you, and you go in, and then there's a meeting, and then you do cocktail parties, and they do a lot of cocktail parties.
Samantha Power actually wore cocktail party dresses. I remember. I remember saying that. I said, "Why is she wearing cocktail dress during this debate?"
That's why, for Nikki Haley, this was a perfect job. There was,
Oh
hey,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Free bar tab, the
yeah,
work.
yeah, cocktail parties. And you remember she spent a lot of money refurbishing her home, which was provided. It's actually provided by the U.S. government. That's where the UN representative lives. But she made sure I don't really like this the way this is arranged. So she spent a lot of money on refurbishing,
Yeah,
and then
the
she
drapes.
quit.
The drapes are really important.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't like all that. And then of course, once 18 months were up, hey, I can really cash in and make a lot of
Yeah,
money.
but Mike Waltz can't cash in. I always thought he was a clown from the get-go. All of his ridiculous appearances on Fox, and then that Laura Ingraham. I mean, she was holding him. Just give me something to work with, please, Mike. Give me something to work with. He couldn't even do that.
That's right. Well, he didn't really have. I mean, how do you
I know.
you have an explanation? There's a
I still think he put Goldberg on there. I believe that because I think that Waltz is he's playing a dirty game. Okay, Trump will be gone one day. The
Correct.
Israeli lobby is forever. Okay. I think he was playing a guy with, really limited, the low octane thinker.
Right.
Okay. But it spells opportunism. Okay. Trump is just a vehicle for Mike Waltz to move ahead. Okay. I don't think he gave a rat's ass one way or another. But
Right.
if he could pull off this caper that was pulled off eventually, he would be rewarded lavishly.
Yes, I think you're probably right. I mean, because what what he wasn't counting on was probably that Goldberg would do what he did. I mean, Goldberg is a very slimy character, and of course, he not only did he do for Trump, but he did for Waltz as well. He probably thought Waltz would be grateful. I mean, Goldberg would be grateful for this opportunity to sit in and then maybe write an article, kind of deep background, not naming any names or anything, but he would be in on the know. He just didn't know that this is what Goldberg would pull off
That's
this.
what he
Oh,
does.
right.
It's what Goldberg does for a living. Oh, geez.
But
Yeah.
you're right.
Quadruple scotch,
That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, but you're right.
Hey, honey, can you give me another? Oh, you left me. I forgot.
But you're right. What must he be thinking now? Hey, I lost my job over this. I could still be a national security advisor. Uh,
Yeah, but George, also days before, a week before, Iran hawks being ousted from
yeah.
the State Department. What's going on here? What's this all about?
Yep.
That was very prominent, that was
Yep.
widely. I mean, Politico went crazy with that,
Right.
okay? And who's that big mouth woman that was always attached to Mike Pompeo? I mean, just a simpleton, and she was always on Fox all the time. Remember that woman's name? She converted to
Oh,
Judaism.
I know who you mean. Yeah. Oh, the one kind of, yeah. I know exactly who you mean. She's got a job now. Doesn't she work for Witkoff? Doesn't she? Isn't she number two to Steve?
No, no, I think we're thinking about two different
The one
people.
kind of, yeah, because she worked for Pompeo. Oh, are you talking about the State Department spokeswoman?
No, no,
Oh,
no, no.
the one who was um like the one who's spokesman for Marco Rubio, the Um,
We did a video on her. Anyway,
yeah,
my point is what's going on here? So, 10 days before all of this culminated, oh, Iran hawks in the State Department are being
right,
dismissed.
right.
What?
Yes,
It wasn't this elaborate?
yes. Yeah, you're right. I don't believe it. I don't believe that it could have been that elaborate. And I don't think
No, I think we've solved it. It's just Trump. I won't stand in your way.
that's right.
Just
That's right.
trivial, off the cuff.
Right.
Maybe there was someone saying this is not the kind of national security apparatus that this president wants, and they're doing all of this, and Trump is like, "Yeah, well, go ahead. That's your mandate. Go
That's
ahead."
right.
Go
You see, there are people who do this 5D chess. I mean, there are people like that. Trump isn't one of them. There are people who are very cunning and are very enigmatic and are thinking several steps ahead of everyone else. That's not that's not who Trump is. So therefore, he just simply, yeah, kind of thought, changed his mind and said, okay, well, whatever, BB wants to go ahead, let him go ahead.
Yeah, and I don't like to be late for a musical.
Yeah, that's right. I just,
Is the motorcade ready for me? Okay, all right.
I mean, you think of,
How do I look? How do I look? Look
the,
okay?
it's like, I was just reading,
You just started the Third World War.
right. It's like, I was just reading this by Yasser Arafat. Arafat was a kind of a five-dimensional figure. He was very cunning. You could even look at his face. He's a very cunning person, but he had to. He was juggling so many different balls in the air. Trying to deal with Clinton, trying to deal with the Israelis, with his own constituency, and the Israelis are trying to assassinate him. You got to be, you have to be very, very cunning to survive in that murky world. And he's somebody who never really said what was truly on his mind. Nobody, there are politicians like that, and you never know what is really going on in their minds. You know, David Lloyd George.
Menachem Begin was kind of like that.
Who are you talking about?
Menachem Begin.
Yes, that's right. Exactly. They're like that. Trump is not one of them. Trump, when he thinks something, he just blurts it out. Sends out a tweet.
Did you see that comment? It was remarkable. He said, you know, Russia was on our side in the Second World War, but everybody hates them now. But Germany and Japan, they were on the other side. Go figure. What prompted that? We were on that same side, but they were on the other.
They were on the other side, but yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, that's right. That's like when he said with to Mertz, couldn't have been a nice day for you on June the 6th, 1944.
See, but this is what makes this man so. I I think, because of what's just happened, up until then, is how do we understand this man? How should we think about this man? Now, I don't think we have to think.
Yeah,
Is it a fool's errand to try to understand how he thinks?
yeah.
I think that's where we are.
I think so. I think so. And I think we need to get away from this whole that he's playing 5D chess. I don't think he's doing that. I just that's not how he.
Oh, that for me is
Yeah,
done.
yeah,
And that was the benefit of the doubt I always
yeah,
gave. I
yeah.
remember when I finishing my recording on Thursday, and there was a press TV journalist on the program, and I said either right before or at the end of the program, not recorded, but I said, maybe this whole thing is just five-dimensional chess that we don't get. And he
Hmm.
said, it's hope.
Yeah,
It's hope.
right. Yeah, yeah. No, that's right.
And I don't know, maybe somebody else has coined it, but we went along with the fallacy of common
Right.
sense.
Well, I think it's reasonable I
Oh
think
no, I don't take back anything I
right.
said. I don't take one word back. No.
No, I think it's reasonable. Yeah, exactly, common sense, and I think it's reasonable to try to give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, I think the easiest thing in the world would have been to say, "Oh, of course, Trump is like everyone else. He's just going to be like Biden, and Biden's like Clinton and Obama, whatever." But let's say, okay, let's give Trump some time. Maybe he can do things. Maybe he'll have a different approach, and he'll succeed where others have failed. I mean, so I think it's reasonable to try to give him the benefit of the doubt for as long as you know it's possible. But it's hard to see on this how you can in any way give him the benefit of the whichever way you look at it, however you interpret it, it looks bad for him.
Well, history has a funny way of writing itself after moments like this, okay? Because it's not too hard to try to figure out
No,
the, like I said earlier, there were many ways, there were different trajectories to this point, but from this point on, it becomes very limited in number,
right,
and they become very, I think, pretty easy to predict. Okay, we
right,
don't like predictions, but I mean,
right,
to see how it can unfold,
right.
okay? And none of them are good.
None of them are good. And what's important is, like he said, well, if I'd been president, Ukraine wouldn't have happened. If I'd been president, October the 7th wouldn't have happened. Well, now you're president. This required you to be president. You can't, this is not Obama's. This isn't Biden's. This isn't George W. Bush. This is yours. This is entirely your doing. And he cannot get himself out of this. I mean, that was, it was absolutely that. And that's why this is just so catastrophic for him because there's no way that he can worm himself out of this. You can't blame this on anyone but himself. Netanyahu told you, "Oh, I'm going to enforce your deadline, and I'm not going to stand in your way." You're the American president, and you're not going to stand in his way.
All right, everyone. I think we've run out of words on
Run
how
out of words.
mystifying all of this is. This is like a script I never could have imagined. I'm serious, George. I mean, the fallacy of common sense. I mean, common sense, we shouldn't, using common sense, we shouldn't be here.
Okay.
We shouldn't be here,
No,
everyone.
no, no. That's right. Common sense. You would think people want peace. People want to deal. Everyone benefits. Everyone benefits from this.
And Donald Trump mostly.
But Donald Trump mostly. Then he can say, "I just give me my Nobel Peace Prize already. I want it." And now we have him plaintively, "Oh, maybe Iran can still come back to the negotiating table. Please come back to the
What was the
negotiating."
film by Cheech and Chong, Up in Smoke? I think that was it. Cheech and Chong. I date myself, okay? Hilarious 1970s drug-related humor, okay? And they were two guys that were just constantly stoned, okay? And they would get into the most ridiculous. It was like Faulty Towers in a way. And one of their films is called Up in Smoke, and here we are, it's Up in Smoke. Quite literally, unfortunately. All right, everybody, we'll have much more to say. What's going to happen in the next 24 hours? Who knows? But I think it's going to be chock full of things,
Yes.
okay? And God willing, we'll be doing our live stream at 10 o'clock Eastern. I look forward to doing it. If you're watching this, if you're a troll, take the day off, okay? Take the day off, knock yourself out, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Again, George put together, haven't seen anybody else do it, and particularly on a weekend. We put a lot of time on Sunday, a lot of time. Okay, this is like our mega weekly event. Okay, on the live stream, it's limited because of time, but George, he did some work here, and you should recognize it and reward it. Okay, we like to joke about the dogs and all that, but on a serious note, reward the labor. Okay, because even though we're introspectively looking at our analysis leading up to this, But now you all know how we got here,
Right.
and I think how the situation actually panned out.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. So, Peter's absolutely right. So if you have anything lying around, under the mattress, behind the cushions, in the dog dish, and
Even in grandma's cookie jar.
in the
Go
grandma's
ahead.
cookie jar, whatever it is, everything, pick it all up into the tip jar. This is Buddy making, he's there to emphasize the point, into the tip jar. We're very grateful for all of your help, friendship, and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, the more we can improve on the technology, and above all, we might even have, the dogs, in a better mood, one of these days. So remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye-bye. Bye, buddy.